Mr. Bernard Henri Levy, welcoming you warmly to this interview in my Vision TV show. I hope that you will answer the questions with open mind and a big heart. I will start with a question which I feel the audience wants to know first and fully.
Of course, I'm very honored to be on your show and in your channel.
Mr. Levy, you are known as the mastermind of the Arab Spring. What is your answer about this?
No, the mastermind of the Arab Spring was the Arab peoples. They were the mastermind. I just tried at this time to help as much as I could. That's it. But the mastermind is the people himself.
So what was a little bit, can we know about your role, especially in Libya, and why you are interested in Libya?
I was interested in general in the idea that for the first time, the West should be at the side of the people and not at the side of a tyranny. I remember so well when the Libyan revolution started in 2011, the automatic reflex of all the Western countries was to take side with Gaddafi, automatically, without reflecting. And I thought,
why so? Why is that?
Because the West likes order, because the West want to keep, as they say, the devil they know, And I remember asking to myself, what if for one time the West decided to support the people, not to take side in a Pavlovian way with the man, Muammar Gaddafi at this time, who was shooting his own people. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, somebody is asking you, I will pick a question for the audience. They said, did you form any bond with the Muslim Brotherhood to remove Gaddafi?
Muslim Brotherhood, they are my adversaries since always. I would not say my enemies, but my political adversaries, my ideological adversaries. So of course not. And number one. And number two, those who toppled Gaddafi, it was not the Muslim Brotherhood. It was, as in all revolution, a mix of good people and less good people. You had there was some Democrats, some moderates, and you had some Muslim Brotherhood. It was a mix.
And liberals also. And liberals activities.
You had liberals, yes. My friends at this time were people, I don't know, like Ali Zaidan, like Mahmoud Jibril in Libya, like Mahmoud Jibril, who were true liberals and Democrats doing their best to implement democracy in Libya. For the moment, they failed. But
before to talk about the results, yes, your book La guerre sans les mains, journal d'un écrivain du printemps libyen. What does reflect? Is it about the Libyan Spring? But what is the role or the French role in getting rid of Gaddafi? Do you describe the French role in this book? And do you represent the French government as when you are? No.
No, I represent myself. There is a tradition in France which is free spirits and free intellectuals and free writers. I belong to this tradition. I represent nobody. This is, by the way, a grievance which is made to me. I represent nobody except myself. In this book, you are alluded.
But before to talk about the book, but you had a position as a consultant for President Sarkozy, no? C'est pas vrai?
No. Consultant, certainly not. I spoke to him at this time, to Sarkozy, to Hillary Clinton, to people at the UN, the head of the UN, a lot of people. For me, it was so important, again, that for once, the possibility to embrace human rights and democracy could be given to these Libyan people. After
Why
that,
it's so important for you and in Libya, exactly?
Because for me, democracy is universal. Democracy is not reserved to Western people. democratic values are universal. And there is not Europe who has the right to democracy and other parts of the world who are not mature or who have tradition which does not match with democracy. I don't like this idea at all. For me, it is universal values.
So the book reflects the will of the people in Libya?
No, the book it is an old book now. It depicted what I did myself. It is a subjective book, a diary, day by day. I said what I did, what I tried to do in 2011. Yeah, what I did in Libya, what I did in Paris, what I did in Washington, D.C. I did my best.
With these influence people. Before to start and talk about your latest visit, I want to ask you, maybe it's a delicate question, how you can defer yourself being an independent French writer or philosopher and a journalist, also we can say so, and how do you describe yourself? I saw a video of you saying that you belong to the oldest tribe in history, which is what you call the tribe of Israel.
Because I am also Jewish. I am French, first of all, but I am also Jewish, and when I say it like for a Muslim, it is a source of pride to be Muslim. For a Jew, it is a source of pride to be Jew, and I say it. I don't hide it. I don't hide.
But does that reflect on your opinion or your belongings, your writings?
My belonging is first of all France and French culture and enlightenment, what we call in France enlightenment philosophy, but also not as a child. As a child, I was raised in a completely secular family. My family had nothing to do with Judaism. But when I was a grown-up man, I went in the text in the Bible, which is the common trunk of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It is our common book. I know this book, the Bible, a little.
Can you please comment on the famous sentence that you said about, I don't know, I'm not sure, but you have to tell us. Islam is a problem threatening the West like fascism. Did you say that?
Of course not. I never said such a thing.
You didn't say that.
I never said such a thing. I think that there is in the West some fascists, and the West invented fascism, by the way, Hitler and Mussolini. And there is also in the Muslim world some fascists. You have Erdogan in Turkey. Erdogan, who is sort of a post-fascist for sure, but not Islam, not even Turkey as itself. You have in Turkey a lot of good people, Democrats and so on, and you have a fascist who is Mr. Erdogan, and he's Muslim. And you have in France some fascists like Madame Le Pen, who is a Christian, and she's a fascist. That's it.
Yeah, it depends about what they present. You described Erdogan as the new Ottoman Sultan. So why and how do you describe the Turkish role in Libya, especially during your visit? What did you see? What did you observe? And we know that Erdogan threatened you in person.
Erdogan threatened me in person many times, yes, in the past. Erdogan, who is a little lunatic, as you know, he holds me accountable and responsible for the toppling of Morsi in Egypt. When Mr. Sisi took the power, Erdogan said that I was the brain of the plot, in his words, which is, of course, totally stupid. Then, when the Kurds, my friend the Kurds, held a referendum, he said again that I was the one who is responsible for dismantling Iraq and so on. So, of course, Erdogan is lunatic. Erdogan does not like me. And it's rather normal because I don't like him either. And I think that the Erdogan neo-Ottoman imperialism, I think that it is a danger for Europe, for the West, and for the Arab world also. It is a danger for all of us.
Yeah, this will take me to the to the, I don't know if you can say attentat or bien someone fired on your convoy or motorcade when you were entering Tarhuna. Whom do you accuse of doing this? Is it related to Erdogan somehow or to Turkish forces or to the forces in Libya that represent Turkey?
I am not a policeman. I am not a judge, so I am unable to accuse. But what I can tell you is that in this part of Libya, Erdogan has confiscated the revolution. And Erdogan is a new Turkish forces plus Syrian proxies today occupy the ground and have the power. And this is not good at all for the Libyan people. Was I victim of that? Probably, but I have no evidence. The minute after I put my foot on the Libyan ground, my program was in all Qatari and Turkish Facebook pages. My program, the place where I was going to go, the place where I was supposed to have lunch, the people whom I was supposed to see. My bodyguards told me, Mr. Levy, it's very dangerous, you have to take your plane back. I said, no, I will do my program. I want to go to Tarhuna. I want to see my friends in Misrata. I want to contribute to launch an appeal for peace and for unity of Libya. I will do all of that. But there was a leak.
Who invited you? Who invited you to go to Libya?
Who invited me to go to Libya? No one. A journalist is never invited. A journalist invites himself. I did ask a visa, and I landed in Misrata. I had my visa, and I did my job, my free job of free spirit, trying to freely investigate on Libya. It is difficult in Tripoli because it is not a free country. Because when you have the big boot of Erdogan and the big boot of the Muslim Brotherhood, there is not a lot of freedom left. So it was difficult.
What about Qatar? Did you notice any interference, any Qatari interference in the area that you visited?
Probably. I don't think that there is no Qatari mercenaries or no Qatari military forces. But is there some Qatari influence? Is there some Qatari money? Is there some Qatari manipulation? I think so. I do think so. I think that Qatari and Turkish are like this, hand in hand, and that they are trying to hijack the will of democracy and the revolutionary past of the people of Tripolitan.
One more question. You talked about Fathi Bashaga. You said he was, I don't know what you said, but you said he's a strong man. But as I know that he was a person who offered you protection during this visit. What does this man present? And do you agree about his thoughts about the democracy in Libya?
I don't know him. I did not meet him, so it is difficult for me to say. The only thing I can say is that he is the Minister of Domestic Affairs, therefore the Minister of Police, and his duty, his responsibility was to not to protect me, but to ensure my protection. It was, as in any country in the world, except in savage country, his responsibility was to be sure I was not badly treated or wounded or whatever. He did his job with no sympathy. I suppose he has no special sympathy for me. I don't have for him. This is not the question. He did his job, and he did it well, by the way. He did it well because if I escaped this ambush in Tarhuna, which was a serious one, the intimidation, it was thanks to the police forces who were escorting me, yes. And I thank them a lot because they probably prevented a possible drama or tragedy or catastrophe.
I would choose Yeah, I will choose some quick questions also from the people who saw the ad about being with us in this show. One is asking about, can we see you one day in Tehran leading people for freedom?
If I could have a visa for Tehran to see people against the regime, if it was possible, of course I would go. If I could see opponents to the Shia dictatorship, if I could see young ladies and young students demonstrating in the streets, to go and to interview him, I would do it, yes, of course. But Tehran is honestly an iron dictatorship. Somebody like me cannot enter, alas. But of course I would do it. But it's impossible.
But you can, at least you can try about it, try to write about it. And what is your opinion about Hezbollah influence in Lebanon?
Hezbollah is the poison of Lebanon. Lebanon is a great country, and there are some historical links between France and Lebanon. The poison is really Hezbollah. The military provocation, the dictatorship on the population, the blackmail which they exert on other political forces. This is the poison of Lebanon, and Lebanon is collapsing, alas, by responsibility in big part of Hezbollah.
Can France do anything to stop this influence, in your opinion? What should they do, or what is your advice for Lebanese people to do?
It's very difficult to advise when a people is under such a threat, a daily threat. The Lebanese people, when they wake in the morning, when they go to bed at night, they are afraid of Hezbollah. It's very difficult to give them advice when you are not, when you don't share their life. It's very difficult. I could say to resist, okay, but I'm not there. It's easy to do it from far, less easy to do it from inside. So I would not risk to give an advice.
Okay, Mr. Levy, someone is asking you, about the Kurds. You were very interested in the Kurds in Kurdistan of Iraq. So what was your real experience there? And do you promote the liberation as a state, or different than the big Iraq?
I think that, yes, I sort of promote that. I think that Iraq is a failed country, failed again under the boot of Iran completely, and that Kurdistan is a real country. It should be a real country. It works. There is a citizenship. There is a normal life. There is a good president, a good leadership. There should be a country for sure. And my experience is that I was with the Kurds on the ground for weeks and weeks and weeks when I made a movie called Peshmerga. And the Kurds did protect the rest of the world against ISIS. If there was not more terrorist attacks in my country, for example, in Europe, it was thanks to the Kurds who were a wall against the push of ISIS. And I will never thank them enough for that. Mr. President Barzani and all the Peshmerga.
You did a great job, Mr. Levy. What are your thoughts about the Algerian Spring? You are originally from Algeria, and people are asking why you don't encourage the revolution there.
I do, of course. I think that the demonstrations which happen since now 1 year are a great example of courage, of moderation, also of responsibility of a great people. And I wrote a few times about that. Of course, I encourage this movement. Of course, I do. And I remember 25 years ago when Islamic terrorism did hit Algeria at the worst time, in the darkest season of Algeria in the 90s. I went there for a newspaper called Le Monde in France, and I wrote a series of articles about this massacre of civilians committed by the radical Islamists. It was much before ISIS, but it was the origin of ISIS. ISIS starts with this Algerian moment when you have these terrorist cells beheading some civilians and so on. And I wrote about that, and I supported the civilians who resisted against this barbarity.
Mr. Bernard Levy, my last question is from your observation in Libya, what will happen next? How can you describe the future? Does the war or the fight gonna stop? It will be stable soon? What do you think?
It will be stable if we let the real people decide, and if we leave them free of their destiny. If Libya continues to be the sandbox where Erdogan and Putin make their battle, it will not be good for the Libyan people. Libya deserves better than to be the battlefield of two autocrats, paranoiac, the two of them, Putin and Erdogan. It's such a shame and so heartbreaking to see this country becoming that. Just the stake, the object of the battle between big Russia and big Turkey. Libya has to make her path out of that.
Mr. Bernard Henri Levy, the French philosopher and the writer, I thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for answering all the questions.
Thank you.